Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I have a guest. We're gonna have an exciting conversation with Nathan, and Nathan is a senior full stack engineer from Sydney, Australia, and he has 10 plus years of experience in the industry. And then he codes a lot. He codes every day. That's what he do. And Nathan work on all kind of tech, for example, like SaaS, mobile, and platforms, and in many kind of industries. So this video is sponsored by my startup, Surnx, and it's a platform for you to be able to discover remote working friendly spaces and also be able to rent your own home office to people like Airbnb, so you don't have to rent the whole house anymore, you just rent your own space. So if you're interested in finding a spaces to work anywhere you go, and then also if you're interested to rent out your home office to remote workers, or for example like you have got an office or event spaces or whatever spaces you can for work, just check out the website, let me know, and let's get into the interview today. Hi Nathan.
Hello, thanks for having me on.
And how are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
I'm good. So Nathan works remotely. He's a freelancer, and now he's in Japan. So first questions for you, Nathan, because you used to work as a software developer. What inspired you to start your own business instead of working for like a traditional job?
So funnily enough, like I've actually worked for startups all my life. Like even though I have technically worked for like big corporate companies, they've got like a few hundred employees and stuff like that. All the projects I've worked on were like a lot of greenfield projects, so a lot of start projects. So I was building like chat applications, mobile apps. I was working for a med tech company before. But actually what inspired me to start my own company actually started way back in 2018. I was studying game development at the time. I have a game development background. That's actually what I studied. So Unity, Unreal Engine, all this sort of things. And I came across entrepreneurship for the first time. That's when I got hooked on the whole Zuckerberg thing and all that. And like that, and it's what I like to call my Zuckerberg phase. Like I thought I was going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, and which every founder goes through. Like you think you're just going to be the next Uber or whatever. But honestly, it was the most ambitious I've ever been in my life. I can say, besides recently, I was the most ambitious. Like I was getting up early. Like early was 7 a.m. for me. Now I get up at 4. But before there was like getting up at 7 a.m. because I was working part time. At Luna Park, actually, of all places. I was working in food and beverage at the time. So I was like, I'm going to start a company, and I was learning about all this sort of stuff. But because I was studying and because I didn't really know how to do sales or anything, like I think sales is one of the biggest, most important skills that founders need to learn is how to sell. I didn't know how to sell. So I was just a fancy coder that just ragtag, like I picked up PHP, randomly, I taught myself that. I learned what SQL was. I became a full stack developer before I knew what full stack was. And that was how, and I started building a platform from that. I was just like, oh, well, what do I need to build a website? Okay, I need a front end, but like, how do I like host it? So I just started Googling things and figuring it out. But coming back to your question, fast forward a few years to like 2023, I was working for a startup, a med tech in Sydney. And I was at the pointy end of a layoff, everyone's favorite word, layoff. So I lost my job at the end of October 2023, but I actually count that as a blessing because I took that as the final signal to like, I need to actually start my company properly. I need to learn sales and marketing. I need to actually do this thing. Before that, I just like built like little games here and there, like my company, Nadoco Interactive. I just built like little games here and there, but nothing that's really worth selling. Then in, 2023, 2024, I was like, okay, cool. Like I'm going to start by selling off websites and everything. So I started with the whole notion that I was going to build websites. I was going to become the greatest, best web developer in Sydney. Of course, this is a very competitive industry. Like every man and his dog knows how to code now. And with the advent of AI and ChatGPT and Claude, all of this, it's hard to stand out as a software engineer unless you provide an immense amount of value. But that's kind of how I got started, and that was the original inspiration behind my company.
Because you mentioned sales, and sales is one of them. For me, I think it's probably difficult when you are like difficult to learn when you're like doing tech, like software engineers, because sales we don't used to do sales in our daily life as software engineers. So how did you learn that? How did you get started? Like from books or mentors?
Yeah, so I mean mentorship. So in my networking process that I went through, like I've always gone to networking events, mainly the startup networking events, and I was like, well, my clients are at these networking events potentially. Everyone needs a website. So I started just like signing up for events randomly, and I came up to this one event that was ran by it was a program. It was called Mantastic. It's like, you know how the whole movement around like men's health and men's mental health and all this sort of thing is a really big issue, and there was a whole program around that. And I signed up for it. Because there was a business aspect to it. They all talked about like running your life like a business. Like you've got your CEO tasks, you've got your CFO, your CMO, all this stuff. And I was like, cool, this is really interesting. And I was already doing that at the time. So I kind of was like, okay, well, this is a way for me to kind of expand, and I can probably learn some sales and marketing. Like I chatted to the guy, and he had a lot of experience with that. He ran ads a lot. He runs ads to advertise the stuff that he does. And yeah, I signed up for that. I did that for a year. And, over the course of the first couple of months, like I learnt about, it was really funny because when you first start learning something from a mentor, it's more like copy and paste. Like you literally just say and do exactly what they tell you to do. And I remember so I was part of Amway before. Everyone would have been experiencing all these multi-level marketing and stuff. And I used to just copy and paste exactly what my mentors told me to say. So coming into this new coaching thing was the same thing again. But over time, like I actually started to develop like a natural skill. Like I transitioned from just doing websites because that's just like impossible to compete in. Like so many people can do WordPress. Like how the heck am I going to stand out doing this? So I jumped back into my niche, which is startups. And so I learned more about building mobile apps and about building SaaS platforms. Like I can code with my eyes closed, but like actually designing and architecting a system, like that was like little things that I'd done here and there. Like you can code stuff with AI. AI is really brilliant at like scripting and stuff, but unless you have that holistic understanding of like how the system is going to function, that was the biggest thing that I had to kind of focus on. And then learning like project management and like how to actually manage projects. So that alongside with like the sales skills that I was learning by just going out and just repeat, learning from my mentor. Like we had calls, at least 2 or 3 calls a week. It was a group call, group coaching. And yeah, we just basically shared our challenges. What are our goals for the week? What are we doing at the end of the week? And that kind of accountability helped me to kind of stay focused and yeah, really improve my sales skills over time.
And how did you find your first client for your company?
At a networking event of all places, like it was kind of weird. Like I'd met this person like at another event like months and months ago, and I was like, I met the same person again. They recognized me, and yeah, they were building this thing. It was an app in the hospitality industry, and they were, matching up coffees and stuff like that. And I thought, okay, cool. Like they wanted to match people's what kind of flavor coffee they liked, and I thought, oh, that's really cool. So, that was like my first like going through the sales process and trying to understand. That was my first client. Like I had a few not near misses, what's the word? Like you shoot and then you miss. Like you go through a couple of meetings. Like I sat through my first couple of meetings. I would sit down for like 3 hours with someone before I even asked if they have a budget. Like, can they even afford a website? And this first client I had was like, yeah, can you build me like this entire like it was a $15,000 website. And he's like, yeah, can you do it for $500? And I was like,
500?
No thanks. And what I quickly learned, and when I finally got my first client, was you need to establish what are the requirements of the project. The scope was a bit too big, but like as a first experience, it was really great. Like I loved working on it, and and I do all my projects fixed price, so I stuck to my word. I didn't charge the client any more money for the project. I just kept. It was only like $2,000 or something I did it for, which was fine at the time. Like I loved it so much that like, I mean, you would know this as well, Sherry. Like with the stuff that you do, you'll just work until like silly hours in the morning, 2 a.m., 4 a.m., because you just love what you do so much. So I would spend 12 to 14 hours a day just coding this guy's startup, and I really loved it. And he was really great to work with and stuff like that. And yeah, that was my first kind of experience. And then obviously I improved from there.
Because I remember you told me that you have a client who got into Techstar. Is that the one?
Yes. So in terms of getting into Techstar, we got into the second round of interviews. Like, we had to pitch it to the people. There was like several rounds of interviews you have to go through. We got to the second round of interviews. Ultimately, they didn't make it into Techstars because it was really competitive. But it was really cool to see, because we had certain requirements and milestones that we needed to hit. Like, we needed to have like a working prototype and all that stuff. So we pretty much 2 weeks to build, like, we had like this spinny, really animated thing, which, you know, how, you know, in high school we learned trigonometry, which we say we're never going to use it. I actually used it. Though, believe it or not, guys, you do actually use trigonometry at least once in your life. And so I used it to make these little icons, because you have like a spinning thing. I made a physics thing, and I made these icons orbit around. I did that with trigonometry. Wow. So that blew my mind. And that was part of the requirements to build this thing for Techstars. And yeah, they really liked it. They invited us to the first couple of interviews. And yeah, it was a really good experience.
And have you worked with big company before, or just startup?
So for most of my career, I've only, on the projects I've done, they've all been like beginning projects. Like, I haven't gone to say work at Google or Facebook or anything like where there's already an established product, already got product market fit. You're just like bolting on new features and just doing like little tasks. I was always building stuff from the ground up. So I know there's a lot of red tape and a lot of different situation that exists in corporate where, and FANG as well. Like, they have processes that you need to follow. You need to get the quality assurance. Your code needs to be verified. I mean, I still do that now, but I imagine in these bigger corporate companies, it becomes a lot more important to actually have those processes in place.
And what do you like the most about being a freelancer?
I mean, it's in the name. Yeah, it's in the name, like freedom, like freelancer. Although it's really funny because we say we want to quit our 9 to 5 so we can do our job, but the running saying is we quit our 9 to 5 so we can work 24/7, because that's exactly what happens, right? Like, you have this thing that you want to do, and I wanted to have that freedom. I wanted to have the ability to not have to request annual leave. If I don't feel like working today, I can just not work. But what I've come to understand is the difference between being a freelancer and being in a normal company is, instead of having one boss telling you what to do, you've got 3, 4, 5 bosses, and they're all your clients. Your client is your boss, your customers are your boss. So it's not the fact that the boss doesn't exist, it's just you're at the front line taking all of the fire and the heat when something goes wrong. Whereas if you're in a normal company and stuff and something goes wrong, yeah, your boss might get mad at you, but they're the filter. Like, you don't actually know what happens in the company. You don't realize what the CEO and CFO have to deal with. Like, at a previous startup I worked for ages ago, like, the company was running out of money, and I didn't actually know about that. Like, but the executive team was so good, and this was a startup company. They were just so good and calm and collected and really good at, like, kind of leading the team, that none of us really knew that there was stuff happening in the background. We were all just focused on our tasks and the work, and, you know, that there was that energy there and everything. So it was really enjoyable. But then, obviously, being a freelancer, you're now at the front line, and as soon as something goes wrong, you're 100% responsible. And, you know, your team is quite small as well, right? Is it a team of 4 now or something? Something like that. But yeah, so your team's quite small, so you would experience that. Like, anything goes wrong, you're the firefighter. You got to put out all the fires. You got to fix it. You got to do all the sales. You got to do all the marketing. I mean, at the end of last year, around September, October, I hired my first developer. I hired a full stack engineer, and it was it was a bit of an ego boost. But I also like to try and humble myself, saying like people start, like, interview, they call you sir. I was like, oh yes sir, thank you sir. And I was like, oh, like, but I got out of that in the first couple of minutes. I'm like, no, like, I'm running a company here. Like, I'm not going to get obsessed with being called sir. But it's a different dynamic, right? Because and this is one of the most awesome things. Like, I know I'm going off track from the freelancer question, but when you hire people, instead of, for once in your life, instead of having to be in a job interview, selling yourself and praying and hoping that they're going to like you can just ask questions and then just sit back and let people sell themselves. So I can have the criteria that I want to meet. Like, okay, I need a developer that has this skill set. They have to have this mindset about this thing. I just ask them questions around that, and then you just sit back and then you just let them. Sometimes they fumble as well. It's really interesting to see people, because some people really want the job so badly they'll go to a lot of effort to try and sell themselves to you. And honestly, yeah, and obviously being a freelancer and running your own company allows you to experience all of this. If you're in a normal company, you're in one box, one role, you just do one thing. You don't get to see everything else. So I'd say that's the thing that I love about it the most. I'd love to say the freedom is the one thing I love, but you're not really free until you've built that sustainable revenue and somewhere where you've actually got a team under you where you can actually say, okay, now I'm free. But in the beginning, you got to do everything.